So with the deadlift, have the athlete start by placing the feet hip width, toes slightly pointed outwards, and slight flexion of the knees underneath the bar. It should be over their toes, close to the shins. Make sure when they get down into that position of the deadlift, they drop the hips down, maintain a neutral back, and then they keep the shoulders over the hands, making sure the head is in line with the vertebral column and eyes forward. I emphasize loading the hips and hamstrings and extending to the top of the position with a full extension of the hips. A lot of athletes end up coming and not getting the full hips all the way through, just coming to a partial position. Next, I'm taking through the low pull from the hang. This is where I'll start to focus on the forceful extension of the hips. I'll make sure the back is maintained. As you can see, he starts to lift his lower back up before the bar starts to move. So I really emphasize maintain neutral position from the start and keeping those hips down but pushed back. From there, the bar stays close to the body as possible, and it should essentially just float throughout the phase. A lot of athletes will end up flexing at the elbows and then trying to lift the bar up. So I'll really focus on that, as well as the triple extension that's introduced in this phase. So I'll really emphasize the full extension of the ankles, knees, and hips. Now we're going into the hypo from the hang position. So I'll focus on the part of the shrug at which the athlete starts to flex the elbows. It should be at the highest point of the shrug. So I really focus on movement of the bar and emphasizing keeping that bar. As you can see, he starts to bring the bar a little bit away from his body, so it becomes more of an upper body pull. So I really emphasize keeping that bar close with elbows high. I see a lot of athletes don't end up bringing those elbows high, and then it ends up turning into more of a reverse curl. There's not much really emphasis on the triple extension, however, it is still important, but it should be mastered already from the low pull position. But sometimes form like that tends to break down once you start to progress to something that they haven't done before. Now here with the low pull from the floor, you can kind of see he starts to flex at the elbows, starts to bring that bar up before he gets full extension in through the hips. And essentially that bar should, like I said, float, because it's just like we had done in the low pull from the hang position. So my focus there is on the transition from the first pull to the second pull and the change in velocity of where the bar hits the knees, that it should be a little bit faster. So I'll pay attention to the athlete's ability to create that triple extension from movement starting from the floor versus from the knees. So really looking at the ankles, the knees, and the hips, as well as performing the low pull. Here we're doing the high pull from the floor. Here I'll focus on the athlete's ability to keep that bar close to the chest while lifting the bar as high as they can, keeping the elbows high. Forces the athlete in the position to catch the bar without having to do a reverse curl to get there. Again, making sure that athlete gets full extension. Now I'm kind of focusing on the catch part of the clean. So typically everything looks fine until they attempt to catch the bar. Notice the bar tends to come away from the athlete, in which then they, like I said, try to reverse curl to the catch position. And the elbows are typically pointed down. With something like this, I might work with an athlete who struggles with getting the elbows high, so I'll stand in front of him, lift the elbows, get him into that position where he feels how high the elbow should be. Then they kind of get an understanding of where they should be finishing in their catch. And some of them, with the power clean, not doing as big of a squat, they'll tend to squat down a little bit more. So I really focus on explosiveness and really getting that bar as high as possible, getting those elbows under quick, dropping themselves under that bar, and then standing straight up, rotating the force to their heels. And with that catch, I'll even mention, dropping a couple of the outside fingers just to be able to rotate that bar back onto the fingers and let it rest. So they're able to get those elbows a little bit higher. So here we're piecing it all together from the floor. I'll focus on key points of each phase. I notice the pull starts to happen before the hips get all the way through, so the stress ends up shifting to the pulling movements of the arm to get the bar into that catch position. The bar is usually further away from the body, forcing reverse curl motion, so I kind of noticed that too, just really emphasizing keeping those elbows high to get the elbows through on the catch. I'll really focus on forceful hips, using extension in the ankles and knees to promote movement of the bar along the body, forcing those elbows high. And I'll look at the ability to drop under the bar quick and how efficient they're getting into the catch position. The bar should be resting on the clavicle and deltoids with the body erect. So that's taking him through the power clean